Chosen one, if you are watching this video right now, it's no coincidence. God has led you to this point for a very deep reason. You've come face to face with walls that wouldn't move, doors that wouldn't open, prayers that echoed back in silence. And still, you stayed faithful. Still, you kept walking. Even when your strength was failing and your hope was threadbare, you didn't quit. And that's why this message is for you. But before we dive into this life-changing message, take a moment to pause this video and do 3 things. Hit that like button, subscribe to help us reach 20,000 subscribers, and leave a comment with the number 1. This number will send a powerful signal to the universe, amplifying the energy of this video. And if you are ready, trust me when I say that your life will never be the same. Because what looked like delay was design. What looked like rejection was redirection. What looked like the end was the beginning of something God-sized. You weren't overlooked. You were hidden on purpose, not to punish you, but to protect you while the foundation was being set in the unseen. Now heaven is shifting. The unseen is preparing to become seen. And the things that looked impossible, God is about to make them possible. For you. Not by logic, not by strategy, but by divine reversal. Situations that have defied every effort will suddenly break open. Battles you fought silently for years will end without a word. Opportunities you never qualified for in man's eyes will be handed to you by grace alone. Not because you were perfect, but because you were positioned. You carried obedience when no one else saw. You held the vision when no one else believed. You watered the seed when the soil looked barren. And now the harvest is coming, not by your might, but by God's miraculous hand. He is making a spectacle of what tried to bury you. He is turning your breakdown into breakthrough. He is flipping the script so radically that those who wrote you off won't have the language to explain your rise. And when it happens, you won't need to explain a thing. Your life will be the evidence. Your peace will be the announcement. Your glow will be the confirmation. So stay ready, stay in position, because what's been impossible for man is nothing for God. This is the season where heaven moves on your behalf. Not someday, not maybe. Now, you don't have to force what's already been written. You don't have to strive for what's already been spoken over your life. Because when God declares something, it stands. And what He's declared over you is unshakable. Every closed door was a setup for a better one. Every no was a not yet wrapped in divine timing. Every lonely night, every quiet tear, every unseen sacrifice. He saw all of it, and He never forgot. You've been stretched, tested, and stripped down to nothing, because the blessing coming to you couldn't rest on an unstable foundation. So God let the shaking come. He let the silence linger. He let the delays teach you patience and forge your character. But now the ground beneath you is stable enough to hold what's next. Now your spirit is anchored enough to carry what He's about to release. And it won't make sense to anyone watching, because this isn't coming from effort, it's coming from alignment. Things you didn't chase will start chasing you. Rooms you thought you'd never enter will invite you in without a resume. People who counted you out will watch God count you in. Not by chance, by promise. Because when God makes the impossible possible, He doesn't just shift circumstances, He shifts realities. And your reality is about to change dramatically. So let go of the worry. Release the timelines. Stop measuring your progress with human eyes. Heaven's blueprint for you is bigger than logic can comprehend. You were never meant to do this alone. You were meant to walk in miracles, to be a vessel, to be evidence that God still moves, still lifts, still redeems, still makes a way. The impossible is not your enemy. It's your platform. Get ready. He's about to do what only he can do. You've reached the point where your strength isn't enough. And that's exactly where divine power begins. Because God doesn't need your perfection. He needs your yes, the surrender, the openness, the willingness to believe, even when nothing around you looks like breakthrough. You've done all you could. You've stayed faithful in the silence. You've moved forward when nothing made sense. And heaven has recorded every step. Now the shift begins. Not slowly, not subtly, but suddenly, the kind of shift that moves mountains in hours, that didn't move in years. The kind of shift that rearranges everything, without warning, without explanation. Because when God decides it's your time, there's no delay that can hold it back. No opposition that can block it. No human opinion that can reverse it. And this is your time. Time for restoration. Time for reward. Time for divine fulfillment. The doors you've knocked on in desperation, they're about to swing open with ease. The healing you've begged for in the dark, it's about to rise in your body like light. The vision you've tucked away in fear, God is breathing on it now. What once felt impossible is about to become your testimony. You won't have to force it. You won't have to chase it. You'll simply walk in with peace in your chest and purpose in your eyes. Because this miracle won't come through striving. It'll come through alignment. And when people ask you how it happened, how the closed door opened, how the sickness vanished, how the provision arrived, how the dream came to life, you'll simply say, God did it. And it won't be a cliche, it'll be the only explanation left. So lift your head, chosen one. The impossible is standing at your door, and it knows your name. You won't need to convince anyone this time. Your fruit will speak. Your peace will speak. Your transformation will speak louder than your words ever could. Because when God moves, He doesn't just fix one thing. He restores everything. Not piece by piece, but all at once. The waiting season wasn't wasted. It was training. Every delay taught you endurance. Every setback stretched your faith. Every moment you cried out in silence was heard and recorded. He was never ignoring you. He was preparing the kind of breakthrough that could not be rushed. And now, the season has shifted. Heaven has released the green light. What was once blocked is now blessed. What was once tangled is now aligned. And the best part? You didn't have to manipulate it. You didn't have to perform for it. You didn't have to fight for a spotlight. Because God doesn't promote those who chase attention. He lifts those who stay faithful in the shadows. You've been faithful, and now He's lifting you, not to glorify you, but to glorify Him through you. So expect sudden change. Expect strange favor. Expect the kind of blessings that leave even you speechless. The right doors will find you. The right people will recognize you. The resources, the answers, the opportunities, they're already in motion. Not because you forced them, but because God spoke them. You are a living portal of the impossible, a walking testimony in progress. And when the dust settles, you'll look back on everything you went through and realize it had to happen that way. The pain had purpose. The silence had strategy. The waiting built a foundation strong enough to hold everything He's about to pour out. So stay in position, stay grounded, stay available. Because the impossible is no longer coming. It's here. You've been walking with a quiet weight, one no one else can see, holding space for others while your own soul has been stretching, breaking, transforming, and through it all, you've stayed standing, even when it would have been easier to disappear. But you didn't vanish. You didn't numb yourself. You didn't fall back into old versions of you just because they were more familiar. Instead, you stayed present through the discomfort. You kept listening to the whisper that said, "There's more to you than this." And that whisper was right. What you've been walking through isn't just a difficult season. It's an undoing, a divine unraveling of everything you thought you had to be, so you could finally remember who you really are. That version of you, the true one, isn't desperate, isn't performative, isn't trying to earn love or belong through self-abandonment. That version is whole, grounded, clear, and ready. You don't need more fixing. You don't need another opinion. You need space to breathe, to feel, to stop managing everyone else's perception of you and start honoring the quiet fire within. There's a power in you that doesn't need a stage to prove itself. It shows up in your silence, in the way you discern without speaking, in the way your presence alone reminds people of something they've forgotten in themselves. You've spent long enough apologizing for your depth, for your sensitivity, for seeing through the masks and hearing what people don't say. But that's not a weakness. It's your gift. And now that gift is calling to be lived out loud, not through noise, but through alignment. Let what's falling apart fall. Let the old connections dissolve. Let the illusions crumble. Because what's forming in their place isn't just a new chapter. It's a new frequency, one that doesn't chase, one that doesn't cling, one that simply exists in truth. And in that truth, everything real will find you. You've been walking through layers of your own identity, peeling back everything that was never truly yours. Beliefs handed to you, expectations placed on you, masks you wore so long they started to feel like skin. But something in you snapped recently, not in anger, but in clarity. You looked around and realized the life you were living didn't match the voice inside you. Not because you were doing anything wrong, but because you were living too small for who you're becoming. You're not here to be a watered-down version of your soul. You're here to be undeniably real. That means shedding the roles that kept you accepted. It means no longer performing emotions to keep others comfortable. It means telling the truth, first to yourself, then to the world. And the truth is, you've outgrown the space you've been living in. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you're not confused. You're expanding. Of course, it feels uncomfortable. Transformation always does. You're not supposed to feel at ease in a skin that was meant to be shed. You're being reintroduced to yourself, not the version the world shaped, but the one that existed before the world got to you. That version isn't afraid to take up space. That version doesn't chase connection, it attracts resonance. That version doesn't seek to be understood by the masses. It speaks to the few who feel everything. So if you feel disconnected right now, let it be. If you feel the need to isolate, honor it. Not to hide, but to listen. Because your intuition is getting louder, and the noise of the past can't come with you. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering someone eternal, the part of you that doesn't shift with opinions, the part that doesn't shrink in doubt, the part that knows how to rise when it's time. And it is time to reclaim your energy, to walk differently, to speak from your center, not your fear. No more begging to be seen. No more shrinking to be accepted. You've been quiet lately, not because you have nothing to say, but because something deeper is speaking. And it doesn't use words. It uses pressure. It uses tension. It uses the ache that sits in your chest when you try to force yourself into spaces your spirit has already outgrown. You've mastered the art of holding it together, of appearing composed while your inner world transforms beneath the surface. But the truth is, this version of you is cracking, not to break you, but to open you, because the life you've been trying to maintain isn't big enough anymore. Not for your energy, not for your vision, not for the power that's been dormant inside of you, waiting for the moment you'd stop hiding. You've played small so others could feel big. You've withheld truth to keep the peace. You've silenced your knowing to stay digestible. But your soul is done with that now, and you feel it in the way your body resists certain environments, in the way your energy drops when you engage in anything that feels false, in the way your inner fire won't let you sleep on yourself anymore. You don't need another motivational speech. You don't need a 5-step plan. You need to trust what you already know, that something greater is trying to move through you, and it can't do that if you keep clinging to who you used to be. This is your unlearning season, the one where you peel off every label that kept you contained, the one where you stop asking, "What will they think?" and start asking, "What would I become if I stopped censoring my truth?" You don't need to be louder. You need to be more honest, because that's where your power lives, not in your performance, but in your presence, in your willingness to stand fully in your truth. Even if it means being misunderstood for a while, let it all fall away. Let what's real remain, and watch how life rises to meet the version of you that no longer asks for permission to breathe. You've been sensing the shift, even if you can't explain it. A subtle unrest beneath your daily routine. The things that used to satisfy you now feel hollow. The conversations that once energized you now leave you drained. And the version of you that used to feel so certain is slowly fading into silence. That silence isn't emptiness. It's invitation. An invitation to stop performing and start listening. To stop striving and start aligning. To stop filling every moment with noise and start allowing space for truth to rise. You're being recalibrated from the inside out, and that process doesn't ask for your schedule. It interrupts it, because real transformation doesn't wait for convenience. This isn't about hitting goals or ticking boxes. This is about becoming real, becoming the version of you that no longer fits into molds built by fear or past survival. You don't need to be impressive. You need to be authentic. And authenticity requires risk. The risk of being misunderstood. The risk of losing people who only knew you in your masked form. The risk of standing in spaces without shrinking. But what's on the other side of that risk is freedom. The kind of freedom that doesn't depend on anyone's approval. The kind that comes from remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. The kind that speaks through your posture, your energy, your clarity. You're not meant to be palatable. You're meant to be true. And the people who are meant for you will feel that truth without explanation. So if you're feeling distant from the noise, if you're tired of pretending, if your soul is pulling you towards something quieter but deeper, follow it. Not everyone will understand your shift. Not everyone is supposed to. But the more you choose what aligns, the more the path will rise to meet your feet. Because the real you doesn't chase light, it radiates it. You've been carrying a version of yourself that's ready to be released. Not because it was wrong, but because it served its purpose. It got you here. It kept you safe. But it's not who you're meant to remain. And now your soul is asking for something more. More honesty, more space, more presence. You can feel it in the way your energy shifts around people who no longer see you. In the way your body tightens when you speak words that don't reflect your truth. In the way your intuition flares up when you're asked to perform the role of your old self again. You've outgrown the shell, and your spirit refuses to shrink back into it. That tension, that quiet discomfort that follows you through your day, that's not stress. That's misalignment. You're being invited to step into integrity, to align your inner world with your outer expression, to stop saying yes when your soul is screaming no, to stop bending just to keep things from breaking. This isn't about abandoning everything. It's about returning to what's real, to the voice inside you that doesn't raise its tone, but never stops speaking, to the version of you that knows how to stand still in a room full of noise and hear only the truth. Let the noise pass. Let the false fall away. Let the people who only love the mask lose access to the core. Because what's rising in you is clarity. And clarity doesn't beg to be understood. It simply moves. Moves you away from chaos. Moves you toward peace. Moves you into places where you no longer perform, but embody. You're not here to be consumed. You're here to be whole. And wholeness means honoring the parts of you that are done pretending. This is your becoming. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady and real. And once you fully choose that version of you, everything else will choose itself. You've been sensing that life is asking something new from you. Not louder effort, but deeper honesty. Not pushing harder, but surrendering faster to what you already know deep inside. You're no longer meant to play the same role. The way you've been showing up, it's become too small, too polite, too edited, and every time you try to fit yourself back into that version, you feel it. The tension in your chest, the weight in your spirit, the growing urge to just walk away. That's not weakness, that's awakening. You're being pulled toward the kind of life you can't perform your way into. One built not on how well you're received, but how aligned you are with what's true for you. And that alignment, it doesn't shout, it whispers, it nudges, it rises in the stillness after you stop trying to manage how you're perceived. You've outgrown the story that taught you to shrink. You've graduated from the version of you that had to earn love through self-erasure. And the fear you feel around this shift isn't a sign to stop. It's proof that you're moving closer to the center of who you are. Let people be uncomfortable with your evolution. Let the roles fall. Let the silence expand until the only voice left is your own. Clear, grounded, unwavering. Because the life you crave, the peace, the depth, the meaning, it's not found in reaching further outward. It's found in returning inward. This isn't the part where you hustle. This is the part where you shed, where you walk away from pretending, even if no one else understands why. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your transformation. Your presence will say it all. Your alignment will echo in every room, and your peace will be your confirmation. You're not here to maintain who you were. You're here to remember who you've always been. You've been pulled inward lately, not because you're avoiding the world, but because something inside of you is reorganizing. What used to feel urgent now feels irrelevant. The connections you once clung to now feel like weight. The routines that kept you stable are beginning to feel like cages. And it's not burnout, it's breakthrough. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open, cracking through layers of identity that were wrapped around you for protection, not truth. You don't need them anymore, because the version of you that's emerging isn't afraid of being seen. They're just no longer interested in being misunderstood on purpose. You've learned to sit with discomfort, to listen before reacting, to hold space for your own growth without needing applause for it. And now you're being asked to step deeper, to move with intention, to stop showing up out of obligation and start showing up from alignment. That means saying no more often, walking away from places that don't honor your spirit, letting go of relationships that only recognize the past version of you. And yes, that might mean walking alone for a while, but solitude isn't emptiness when it's chosen. It's sacred ground where clarity speaks and authenticity blooms. You're not meant to carry everyone anymore. You're meant to carry truth. And truth is light. It illuminates everything false, not out of cruelty, but out of love. So don't be surprised if things start falling away. They're not being taken from you. You're being freed. Freed from proving. Freed from performance. freed from the constant search for external permission, because the only permission you need now is your own, to rest, to rise, to be fully you, even when it makes no sense to the world. You didn't come here to conform, you came here to awaken. And that awakening, it's already happening. You've been standing in between two versions of yourself, the one that made everyone comfortable, and the one that makes you come alive. And every day, the pull toward your real self gets stronger, not because life is forcing your hand, but because your spirit is done waiting. You've seen the signs, the people drifting without confrontation, the sudden disinterest in what once fueled you, the quiet urge to leave the room before your energy is swallowed again. This isn't confusion. This is clarity without a script. It's the wisdom of your soul telling you, you don't belong where your truth has to shrink. You've been loyal to your past, to old versions of you that helped you survive, to dynamics where your silence kept the peace. But now, silence feels like self-abandonment. And peace at the cost of yourself isn't peace. It's spiritual suffocation. You weren't born to be manageable. You were born to be magnetic. And the most magnetic version of you is the one that's rooted in alignment. Not approval. That means walking away without guilt. It means letting yourself be misunderstood by people who were never meant to understand this version of you. It means showing up without explaining why you're different. Because you are. And that's the point. The shift you're sensing isn't just emotional. It's energetic. Your frequency is rising. And as it does, anything that isn't built on truth will start to feel unbearable. Let it. Let the discomfort cleanse you. Let the restlessness redirect you. Let the fear be the bridge, not the barrier. You're not here to live in fragments. You're here to be whole, unapologetic, unfiltered, unshaken. And once you choose that version fully, life won't just respond, it will rearrange itself around your truth. Because when you walk in alignment, you don't chase miracles, you become one. You've been sensing the old season closing, not with a loud ending, but with a quiet knowing. The conversations feel different. The rooms feel heavier. The patterns that used to numb you don't work anymore. And it's not because something's wrong. It's because something is finally righting itself inside you. You're no longer interested in performing strength. You're interested in being honest about what you want, about what you feel, about who you are becoming, even if no one around you has the words for it yet. This is the season where pretending will cost you more than your truth ever will. You've been slowly unlearning the belief that you need to earn your worth, that you need to keep everyone close, that you need to explain your evolution so others won't mislabel it. But now you're realizing, if it costs your peace, if it drains your energy, if it silences your voice, it's not alignment. It's attachment disguised as loyalty. And loyalty to your old self will only delay the arrival of your real self. You're being called into the deep now, not to lose yourself, but to meet yourself. The self that isn't afraid to say no. The self that walks away without guilt. The self that no longer waits for permission to exist fully. That version of you isn't coming. They've arrived, and they're waiting for you to stop looking backward for proof that you're ready. You don't need to rehearse your next step. You need to trust it. Because what's coming isn't built from hustle. It's built from harmony, from moving when it feels right, from releasing what no longer resonates, from trusting that when something leaves your life, it's making space for something that matches your becoming. Let go with grace, stand up with courage, and take the next step like the future already recognizes you. Because it does. You've been sensing a quiet shift within yourself. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. It's in the way you speak less, but feel more. in the way you pause before agreeing to things that once got your automatic yes, in the way your soul leans towards solitude, not out of sadness, but out of self-preservation. You're not withdrawing from life, you're realigning with it, because for too long, you've lived in pieces, offering fragments of yourself just to be enough, just to belong, just to keep everything held together. But now, the glue is wearing off, and that's a gift. Because the truth is, you're not supposed to hold everything. You're supposed to hold yourself first, fully and finally. There's nothing wrong with you for needing space. There's nothing broken in you because you crave depth over constant connection. You've simply reached the edge of your old identity, and your spirit knows it's time to step through into what's next. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about removing who you're not. The roles, the expectations, the watered-down, convenient versions of you that kept everyone else comfortable while you carried the weight of your own absence. But not anymore. Now you're choosing slowness. Now you're choosing to listen before reacting. Now you're choosing peace over performance. And peace doesn't beg to be understood. It just is. Let things fall if they need to. Let people misunderstand if they must. Your job is not to be digestible. Your job is to be honest. Honest about your energy. Honest about your truth. Honest about the version of you that's no longer willing to be edited. You don't owe anyone the parts of you that only show up in fear. You owe yourself the wholeness that comes when you finally stop asking, "Is this too much?" and start affirming, "This is exactly who I'm meant to be." And that version of you, she's not coming, she's here. You've been walking through a space that feels unfamiliar, not because you're lost, but because you've outgrown what once felt like home. The habits, the rhythms, the expectations, they no longer hold your soul the way they used to. And that's not failure, that's freedom beginning to bloom. You're learning to sit with yourself in ways you never have before, without the noise, without the performing, without the need to be understood in every room. Because what you're after now is realness, not validation, not attention, just peace, the kind that doesn't come from control, but from alignment. This isn't about reinventing yourself. It's about unveiling who you've always been beneath the layers, beneath the people-pleasing, beneath the fear of being too intense, too soft, too different. You're not too much. You're just finally refusing to shrink. You don't need to explain why you've changed. You don't need to soften your truth for the comfort of others. You don't need to apologize for choosing yourself again and again and again. Because this version of you, the one who says no with clarity, the one who protects their peace like it's sacred, the one who doesn't chase love but becomes it, that version of you is holy. And yes, the path might get quiet, the invitations might slow down, the circle might shrink, but what remains will be real. You're shedding old timelines, breaking generational patterns, writing a story that begins with self-trust and ends with truth lived fully. So let yourself evolve without needing to explain every step. Let your presence shift without warning. Let your boundaries speak in places your words no longer belong. You're not here to prove. You're here to embody. And every step you take in that truth rewrites what's possible for everyone watching you rise. You've been feeling the weight of things that no one else can see. The kind of heaviness that doesn't come from doing too much, but from being too much in places that asked you to be less. And now your spirit is tired, not weak tired, of shrinking, of explaining, of holding yourself back to protect spaces that never felt safe to begin with. But here's the thing, you're not meant to carry this weight forever. You're meant to release it. Because what's weighing on you isn't yours. It's the pressure to keep being who the world remembers, when your soul is asking you to become who you actually are. This is the part where you stop trying to fit into the life you've already outgrown, where you stop asking for signs and start trusting the ones you've already received, where you stop negotiating with fear for a little bit of peace. You've spent so long editing your truth, watering it down, delivering it gently so no one would feel threatened. But your truth isn't meant to be gentle. It's meant to be free, raw, unapologetic, whole. And maybe they won't get it. Maybe they'll walk away. Maybe they'll call your silence strange, your clarity selfish, your boundaries too much. Let them. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You need to be honest with yourself. Because what's coming next isn't for the version of you that's willing to perform. It's for the version of you that stands quietly and powerfully in alignment. So let the old fall. Let what doesn't feel like home anymore drift. Let the stillness do its work. This is not a breakdown. This is the shedding of every false role you ever played. And once it's gone, what remains will not be fragile. It will be you, unfiltered, unmoved, undeniably whole. You've been walking through invisible thresholds, crossing into versions of yourself you didn't even know existed. Not because you planned it, but because your spirit demanded it. Something inside of you just stopped settling, stopped agreeing to half-hearted conversations, stopped showing up in places where your energy wasn't honored. And even if you didn't say it out loud, you've already made the decision. You're not going back. You can feel it in your body, the shift, the clearing, the quiet refusal to carry what no longer feels like truth. This isn't about rebellion. It's about returning to your rhythm, to your voice, to the deep inner knowing that's been speaking all along beneath the noise. You're not becoming someone new. You're simply remembering who you are when you're not performing. And it's uncomfortable because clarity always costs comfort. You're losing your taste for the things that once distracted you. You're losing your tolerance for relationships that drain instead of nourish. You're losing your ability to pretend you don't know what you know. That's the shift. And with it comes responsibility. To protect your energy, to speak only when it's real, to walk away even when your heart still lingers. But don't confuse pain with wrongness. It hurts because you care. It hurts because it's real. But the cost of staying small would hurt even more. You're not here to blend in. You're not here to keep repeating the same cycles with different names. You're here to interrupt patterns, to be the one who says no more, to be the one who doesn't just evolve quietly, but embodies the evolution in how they walk, speak, choose, and breathe. Let this be the moment you stop negotiating with fear. You've already survived too much to question your own becoming. This version of you, it doesn't ask for space. It takes it, because it was always yours. You've been feeling like something's pulling you inward, not to isolate you, but to refocus you, because for too long, your energy has been scattered, pulled in a dozen directions that diluted your power, given to people who only saw your surface, spent in spaces where your presence was consumed but never truly received, and your spirit is done with that. This isn't you being cold. This isn't you changing. This is you coming home to yourself, the self that's been waiting beneath the noise, beneath the obligations, beneath the versions of you created for survival. You've reached the edge of what pretending can offer. You've tasted the exhaustion that comes from constantly being on. And now you crave stillness, not to escape life, but to reclaim it, because clarity doesn't come through pushing harder. It comes through presence, through asking yourself questions you once avoided, through telling the truth even when it shakes things loose. What do I actually want? What am I no longer willing to tolerate? Where have I been betraying myself for the sake of acceptance? The answers don't arrive all at once, but they will arrive in quiet moments, in gut reactions, in the spaces where your soul gets louder than your conditioning. This season isn't about chasing what's next. It's about clearing what's not you. So when the next thing comes, you'll meet it with your whole self. Not the fractured one, not the masked one, the aligned one. Let people call it distance. Let them wonder why you've gone silent. Let the old stories about you unravel without trying to edit them. You're not here to perform clarity. You're here to live it. And living it means releasing what doesn't resonate anymore, even if it used to define you. This isn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of everything real.